Hello viewers, today in our tutorials we are going to be learning about the calculation of mean girth, which is also known as center length for various structures. Before we move on to the calculation proper, I would like to give us a simple explanation as to what mean girth is all about, or the meaning of mean girth. Now, as you can see in this particular diagram, the diagram simply shows different forms of dimensioning of a particular part of a building. Now, at the left corner of a structure, I decided to blow this up and brought up this structure. From what we can see, this dimension given internally is what we refer to as the internal dimension, otherwise known as in-to-in dimension. We can see internal dimension, in-to-in, and the dimension we have at the exterior part is what is known as the external dimension, which is also known as out-to-out. There's another form of dimensioning that is used for building construction design, and which is actually referred to as the center to center, which is dimension given from this midpoint to the next midpoint. And when we carry out measurement for various structures, it is necessary that some items are measured making use of the mean girth, that is the center to center dimension, so as to get the uniform quantity for such items. Example of these items are block work, we have concrete in foundation, and we also have our dam-proof course, and dam-proof course, and some other items which we are going to discuss in our subsequent videos. And as such, in order to have a perfect understanding of taking off, it is required of us to first and foremost gain the knowledge of mean girth. As you can see, the line passing through the center of this structure is what we refer to as a mean girth. So in our calculation, all we'll be doing is to try to make use of dimensions given in a given plan, whether out to out or in to in, and to ascertain the mean girth, that is the dimension across the midpoint of this structure. So without much ado, just follow me up as I give us some examples as to how to calculate for mean girth, starting with plan A. Now for plan A, as we can see in plan A, our dimension is completely given, and the block size of this particular single room is given as 225 mm block thickness, and then the span of the room given in to in is 3200 by 3000. The dimensioning would likely change. I just have to make use of this for my examples. So it is also important to note that the size of your block thickness can differ. If you're making use of normal hollow sandcrete block, your block thickness could be 225 mm, or it can be 150 mm. And if you're making use of your brick, you may have different dimension. I think if you have if you have a one face brick, that would be about 215 mm, and if you have a half face brick, that should be half of 215, which would give you an approximate of 105.5 mm for the half face brick, and so on and so forth. So in order to calculate for this mean girth, the first thing to do is to either pick your dimension as center to center or pick your dimension as out to out, and either way, if you take any of these approaches, you still end up having the same answer. Now let us take the first approach. In the first approach, we are going to pick our dimension using out to out dimensioning. Now, in order to ensure that our dimension given in this plan is out to out, I have to determine the overall length of this particular plan, the overall length from this point to this point, and the overall width from this point to this point. Now, to get my overall length, I have to pick this length given into in, which is 3000, and then I'm going to add up this block thickness and this block thickness so that my dimension can be given as out to out. So I'm going to say add 2 by 225, which is for this two block work, and this is going to give me 450. Now when I add these up together, I'll be having 3450 as my overall length. Now I also need to determine my overall width, that is the distance from here to here. So I'll pick the dimension given into in overall width. Now I have 3200. I'm going to add 2 by 225, which is going to give me 450 as well. Now adding this up together, when I add this up, I'll have 0, 5, 6, 3. This is the value for my overall width. Now I haven't gotten my overall length and my overall width. Since I'm using the approach of out to out, I am going to now calculate for the mean girth. So I'll now say mean girth, this symbol C and L is given as the center length, or you can call it the mean girth. Pick the overall length, which is 3450. Add it up with the overall width, which is 3650. When I add this up, I have 0. This is 10. 0 carry 1. 1. 7. Now this 7100 is the length from this particular point to this point plus this to this. So this 7100 is simply the distance for just one of the length by one of the width. In order to get our mean girth, we need to get the distance, overall distance of both length and both width. So I have to multiply this by 2, which is going to give me 0, 0, 2, and I have 14. So I actually have 14,200. Now I'm not going to stop here because our main aim is to get the calculation for the mean girth, since we are picking our dimension as out to out. Now, like I stated earlier, if you take a look at this first dimension that explained what mean girth is, you would notice that the mean girth is given as a dimension across the middle part of this structure. So since we've gotten the distance across the end, that is the edge or the out to out dimension of this structure, it is not necessary to move down to the midpoint, which is given as the mean girth, the midpoint of this structure. Now in order to get to this midpoint, we all know that the distance from here to here is different from the distance from this point to this point. So it is now necessary to less this small space given here and this small space given here from the overall dimension, so that we can now get the length we need from here to here. Now remember that our mean girth is given as the distance from this point down to this point, and also the distance from this point down to this point. Now since we know that this is the length of our mean girth given as center to center, and what we've actually ascertained is the distance from here to here, what we have currently is simply the measurement of a distance from this point to this point, and what we have along the length is the measurement from this point to this point. Now it is necessary to carry out an adjustment. To be able to get this place to this place, I have to deduct this half of this block thickness and half of this block thickness. So along the first length, I need to deduct half of this block thickness and half of this block thickness, making it 2 half of a block thickness, and the thickness is given as 225. These 2 stand for this 2 place, and this half is telling us that we are looking at half of this block thickness, because this is a full block, so half of the thickness of the block, and then 225 is the thickness of the block. So I already have this for length 1. Let me call this length 1. Let's call this length 2. Let's call this width 1, and let us call this width 2. So for length 1. For length 2, I need to repeat the same procedure. Now let's take a closer look at this. for length 2, I need to also, this is length 2, I need to also carry out deduction of half of this block thickness and half of this block thickness, making it another 2 by half of 225. Now for the width 1, the width is given as dimension from here to here, but our mean girth is not going to start from here to here. Our mean girth is going to start from this internal part to this central part. So since my mean girth will commence from here to here, I need to deduct this place, which is half of the block thickness, and also this place, which is another half of block thickness, giving us 2 half of our block thickness. The same thing goes for with 2. We have to deduct 2 half of the block thickness. Now if you sum these up together, you would realize that we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have to less 4 by 2 by half of 225. This 225 is the block thickness, and this is what many QS students always refer to as less 4 corners. Mind you, this is when your dimension is out to out. You less 4 corners. So since we are lessing 4 corners, I can now come down to our calculation, and then I will say less 4 corners, which is giving us, our 4 corners is seen here. We have 4 by 2 by half of 225. 2 multiplied by half is already 1, so I'll be having 4 times 225, which is going to give me 900. So I will subtract because I have less here. So I have 0, 0, 12 minus 9, we have 3. I'm left with 3, 1. Now, this is now my overall mean girth for plan A. Now, for the second approach, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to take the first and second approach for the first plan, while in the remaining plan, we can just move along with how the dimension is placed. Now, for the second approach, we are going to be taking the dimension as in to in. Now, when the dimension is given as in to in, there is no point in calculating for the overall length. We just need to pick our dimension directly in to in, from this point to this point and from this point to this point. So I'll be picking my overall length, which is given as 3000. I'm going to pick my overall width, which is given as 3200. Then I'll be adding them up together. So I have 0, 0, 2, 6. So I'll multiply it by 2. I believe you know why, because it's going to cover for this first side. But since we got the first calculation, the first summation for these two sides, multiply by 2 for this second side. So I'll end up having 0, 0, 4, and this is 12. Now, I haven't gotten 12,400. The next thing to do, because this dimension is given as in to in, but we are looking for our mean girth starting from this midpoint to this midpoint. Unlike the out to out, where we have to subtract this half, in the in to in we need to add, because this is where dimension stops. In to in, it stops here and here. So I have to add up the dimension remaining from this place to this place. So it simply means that I have to add up this half of block thickness here and half of this block thickness here. So I'm going to be adding 2 by half of block thickness for one length, and I'll do the same for the second length and for one width and the second width. So instead of lessing 4 corners in the out to out dimension, I'll be adding 4 corners for the in to in dimension. So I'm going to say add. We already know what our 4 corners is, which is 4 by 2 by half of 225, which is going to give me 900. Now when I sum these up together, I'll end up having 0, 0, 4 plus 9 is 13, write down 3, pick 1, add it up to 2, we have 3, 1, giving us 13,300. Now as you can see, you'd notice that when I made use of the out to out approach, I end up having 13,300, and when I made use of the in to in approach, I also ended up having 13,300. So whichever the case may be, just have a perfect understanding of your dimension in the plan, and you'll be good to go when it comes to the calculation. Now moving down to plan B. Awesome. Now for plan B, we have a plan that actually has a recess as shown in the diagram we can see, and the dimension given is given as in to in. Now many students, when faced with this kind of plan, actually develop phobia or fear for carrying out different calculations, because most at times they used to mix up the idea of how to deal with area with how to deal with linear meter in a given plan. Now in this case, we have different ways of tackling this problem. Some people may decide to pick each and every part of this elementally. They'll pick this length and add it up with this length, this and this, so they'll sum up each of the length individually. But if you look at this carefully, you realize that the distance from this place to this place was not even given in the plan. So as much as possible, we have to think as fast as we can to come up with an idea. And there are different approaches to tackling this problem. Take note that since you are dealing with length, the length given from this place to this place can be assumed to be found around this particular place, and this can also be assumed to be found around here. We can do the same for these two places, giving us a perfect square, a perfect rectangle, I mean to say. Now take a look at what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick this, I'm going to cut it off from here, and I'll pick it up to fill up this place. Now when I pick it up and bring it to this place, this is what I have. I also did the same here. So I've already cut this off. I cut it off from here down to let's say this place. So I've cut it off from this place down to this place, and I'm bringing it down here. So by the virtue of this, you would agree with me that the space that is left empty is the distance from this place to this place. Now, the distance from this place to this place is equal to the distance from this place to this place. The reason being that the distance from here to here is 225, and then the distance from here to here is also 225, while the length that will be left here is equivalent to the length that will be left here. So I'll also pick these up and cover up for this space. So we now have this. I'm sure by now you should know how to do the same for this place. So without wasting much of our time, I'm also going to repeat the same procedure here. I'll cut it off this way. That shows I've cut off this. Then I would also do the same for the second side. So I've cut this off. So by looking at this carefully, you would agree with me that this is equivalent to this, and this is equivalent to this. This is also equivalent to this, and this is equivalent to this. Now, looking at the exterior part of this plan, we now have a perfect square, excluding this that look as if they are interior wall. Actually, we brought them out. Now, I can now calculate for plan B. We all know that the length given in for plan B is 8,000. So I'll write it down, 8,000. Now, this is the length. The width is given as 2,000 from this point to this point, but since we've pushed this down to this place and this to this place, we ought to add this remaining distance given here, and this distance is given as 1,000. We can see it from this dimension that from here to here is 1,000. So it's going to be 2,000 plus the distance from here to here, which is 1,000 as stated in this dimension. So I'm going to have the width as 2,000 plus this dimension from here to here, which is 1,000. So I have 1,000. This will give me 3,000. I can now transfer it here, 3,000. So you can see we have our length 8,000 and our width given as 3,000. So when I add it up together, I'll have 11,000. Now 11,000 I'll multiply by 2. This is going to give me 22,000. Now you all know that the dimension given here is in to in. So what do you think we're going to be doing? We're going to be adding 4 corners. You got that right? So this is going to be it. Add 4 by 2 by half. Let us assume that our block thickness is given as 215. Now if our block thickness is given as 215, it is going to be 4 by 2 by half of 215. 2 would cancel half, so I'll be left with 215 multiplied by 4, and this is going to be 4 times 5. I have 20, write down 0, carry 2, we have 6, we have 8, so it's going to give us 860. So since we are adding, I can now have 0, 6, 8, 2, 2. Now this is our overall mean girth for plan B. Now for plan C, I know a lot of persons would have been thinking to themselves that this looks a lot more complicated. How can I go about this? Now when you look at this carefully, you will discover that the overall width is given across this left dimension, which is given as 6,000. We also have, aside from this aside from this part by part dimension we're given here, we have the overall length of this structure. Now looking at this carefully, the first thing that comes to mind is how can I improvise this to give me a perfect square, just like we did in the plan B. Now look at what I'm going to do carefully with my pencil. I'm going to improvise. I'm going to push this first dimension here. I'll push it here. This is it. Sorry. Okay. This is it. I'll push this next one, push it out as well, and this is what we have. Now I haven't pushed this out. I'm sorry, I'm not doubling the line yet. I'll do that after now. Now I'm going to push this one. I'll push it out here. So this is what we have. I would also push this one out here, and we have something like this as well. Now I can undouble the line. Let's double them. Sorry, my lines are not straight, but just bear with me. This is supposed to be as straight as this. Let's have it like this. Then this is it. This is, let me use my pen so that it looks more clean. So we have this. Now I haven't done this. We have this as well. As you can see, I'm done dealing with every corner of this particular place. Now, alright, now for this particular recess above here, I will still do the same that I've done below. I'll take this length individually to fill up this space so that I can have a perfect rectangle. So I'm going to cut this from here, and I'll cut it down to I may decide to cut it down to this place. Let's cut it down to this place. So I'm going to pick this like this, and this is what I have. It's going to fill up this place above. So I have this. So you see it's going to stop around this place. So I've filled this up. So this is gone. Now I'm also going to cut this. I'm cutting this from this place. Since I'm cutting it from this place, I'm going to cut it and stop it at this place as well. So when I cut it from here and stop it here, it's going to pick up this. So I'm going to, since I've cut this up, I'm going to have something like this. Now if you notice, it is stopping at this junction here. It doesn't get to the end. So I will repeat the same. So I'm left with a little space here. That is the thickness of this wall here. Now I can cut it off from here, this place here. I'll pick it up from here. You see their thickness are the same wall thickness, and the distance from here to here is the same wall thickness with this. So when I pick it up, I'll complete this place. Now I haven't completed this particular place. I just need to fill up here to here. So I may decide to cut. We still have this wall left. Do not forget, this place has been taken. So I may decide to cut from here and stop here, because this is the same length that I need. So I'll cut this. Out of this 1200, I'm cutting this piece from here to here, and I'm placing it here. So when I place it here, I'll be having, now looking at this carefully, the exterior part, I now have a complete square. This is no longer there. This is no longer there. This, and this are no longer included or available in the interior part of this building. The only length or the only wall that is left in this interior part of the building is this wall and this wall, this and this, which are left untouched. So for me to calculate for my main girth, since my overall dimension is given as 6,000 by 6,750, which is given as out to out, I can now calculate by saying plan C. Now for plan C, I have my width, my length, sorry, which is 6,750 plus my width, which is 6,000. Now I have 0, 5, 7, 12 multiplied by 2. So this is going to give me 0, 0, 5, 5, 2, 25,500. Now if the block thickness is given as 150 mm, I'm going to say, remember the dimension is out to out, so you think I'm going to less or subtract? Well, you actually got that right. Less 4 by 2 by half of the block thickness, which is given as 150. So this is going to give me 600. So when I less this, I have 0, 0. This is 15 minus 6. I have 9, 4, 2. 24,900. Some students may eventually stop here, but this is not the ideal thing to do because you will be under calculating your main girth. Remember, we are yet to deal with these two internal block work, which we did not use up when we're filling up the exterior length of the wall to give us a perfect rectangle. So I'm going to say add internal walls. Now the length from here to here is equal to the length from here to here, because this dimension was initially given as from this place to this place, but since it has been used up at the cost of our external girth, we've already used up this length from here to here, which covers the same span. We are only left with the same height, which is given as 750. So the internal wall is going to be given as 2 by 750, because I have one 750 here and another 750 here, giving us 2 by 750. Now since they are not giving us 2 by 750, when I multiply, I'll end up having 0, 0, 5, 1. So this is going to give me 0, 0. This is 14. You write down 4 and pick 1, and then we have 5 plus 1, 6, 2, giving us a sum total of 26,400. Now this is now our overall main girth for plan C. So do not forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and also click on the notification button so that you can get subsequent tutorial video from our channel. Thank you for watching. You can also leave your comment in the comment box below.